I don't think there's another sector in crypto that has as much potential than AI. The constant flow of news going into the AI sector, the amount of funding, development, and just the buzz and hype around AI is something we haven't really seen in a long time in crypto. Maybe not since the gaming run of 2021. So in today's video, I'm going to give you an update on the AI space. Obviously, it's something I've covered a lot on the channel, but a few things have happened over the past few weeks, and I also want to run through some AI altcoins that I'm currently interested in to give you the update on what I would be buying in the AI sector, what my approach is to the AI sector. Would I be buying things like Render or Tau? Should you go down the risk curve a little bit more? We'll cover all of that and more in today's video. And if you do enjoy this content where every single day I give you altcoin guides, market updates, strategies, and more to help you succeed this bull run, then make sure to click that subscribe button down below and turn on that post notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. I absolutely love what we're building on this channel at the moment. The community's been absolutely amazing since I first started this channel, and I want to hold up my end of the bargain by giving you the best crypto alpha every single day. So before we get into, the individual AI altcoins and my strategy, etc., let's firstly look at where we currently sit in the market and how we sit pertaining to AI itself as a narrative in terms of attention flow, because we all know how important attention flow is in crypto. So Bitcoin right now still hovering above, technically flirting with the previous all-time high, but on the weekly still looks good. Obviously a close above this level would be extremely bullish price action for Bitcoin. You see this engulfing candle here, took out some liquidity in the 62K region. We had a deeper pullback than I think a lot of people expected, but this was actually a dip that I bought quite heavily. As you would know if you're watching the channel, I did a stream with Mando 6 days ago where we talked about buying the dip. I talked about the best strategy for that in the video after, and I also tweeted saying that I was starting to enter some positions again. Obviously, some of those positions were AI, which are sitting really nice right now. But if you didn't manage to get entries there, I'll go through what the current update is. So that's what happened with Bitcoin. It's actually quite bullish price action, this market recovery. It shows that there's still bullish sentiment out in the market. There is still appetite for risk. It would have been really bad if you started to get a weekly close below this level, but this price action is encouraging. Let's just see on the weekly if we can close above. But the market does look pretty good, and a lot of altcoin setups are looking decent at the moment. The funding heat map is starting to take on a little bit more leverage, but it's still relatively neutral, which is a good sign. When it starts to get too frothy, I'll go into the monthly screen and show you what it looks like when it gets frothy like this. That's typically when you do get pullbacks. You can see on the 14th of March, funding started to turn quite aggressively, and that's when we ended up getting our pullback. Funding reset, the market's starting to catch a bid again, and some coins are starting to tick up in terms of their funding rates, but it isn't happening too fast, which is obviously good. And the price action relative to the slow increase in funding for me was also a good sign. One more thing that I'm watching on the altcoin side of things before we go into AI specifically is Bitcoin dominance gradually grinding upwards. Really interested to see if we end up getting a breakdown of this upwards trend. That would obviously be exemplified via a break below of this blue trend line here on the 4-hourly and daily charts. Got to be watching closely to see if dominance actually does make a lower low around this region of 53%. That could definitely be a signal for an extended altcoin run. But for now, Bitcoin is still largely in an uptrend in terms of its dominance versus the altcoin market. The altcoin market is in a really weird place. I get a lot of questions as to, where do I think we currently sit in the altcoin cycle? I still don't think this is really full bull. And the reason for that is that we don't really have enough liquidity in the market to sustain a bid right now. I mean, major caps in general actually haven't moved that much. It's mostly these shorter term narrative rotations, which are actually quite fleeting, which gain attention, but they can't actually sustain. And this is evident because you'll see gaming pump, and then it'll kind of bleed into other alts that start to pump, and then that will kind of bleed. AI is really one of the only sectors which has remained consistent, which is one of the reasons I'm bullish on it, due to it exemplifying relative strength versus the rest of the market. But in general, a lot of narratives are super fleeting right now, and that's not a sign of full bull. In a full bull market, market, typically what happens is the entire market lifts and pumps together. Now we're seeing certain sectors outperform, and actually this cycle, the spray and pray approach has actually been much less efficient than higher conviction bets into certain sectors. Like, I think that's one of the reasons I've done relatively well this year, because I've been pretty heavily capitalized in things like AI, took some meme coin bets, etc. If you're just sitting in the L1s and majors, you might not be feeling as great and as optimistic about the market as others, because the entire market hasn't really lifted. We haven't seen the rising tide lift all ships. It's kind of been waves and tsunamis in certain sectors. So you can take that as, in a bearish way or a bullish way. I tend to take the more optimistic approach that, look, this actually means we're still phase 2, phase 3 of a 5-phase bull run. Obviously, they're going to be drawdowns along the way, but generally speaking, these are good opportunities to position for what is probably going to be a greater rotation at some point. And obviously, that's when you really need to consider the strong narratives that have fared well during this period, as they're likely to outperform. So that leads me on to AI. As I just mentioned, has been one of the sectors that has been the strongest performer. And look, AI's kind of gone in waves. We had round 1 when it, really pumped at the start of the year, then it cooled down for a few weeks, then it pumped again into the Nvidia conference, then it cooled down, and now we're seeing the signs of the rotation waking up again for round 3. So it's one of these sectors that these lulls and these dip periods are actually great accumulation opportunities, because the narrative isn't going away. And I think this is the difference between AI and these other sectors in crypto. AI has managed to sustain some sort of bid when a lot of other narratives like DeFi, they've had these pops and then they've kind of fallen away a bit. That's not to say they can't perform well in the future, but definitely, when you look at going for strength, AI does fit the bill. And for that reason, on dips, it's one of the sectors that I'm accumulating most heavily. We'll speak about some of the altcoins later in today's video. And look, this has been one that I've been talking about for months. I did a video saying that I was buying 3 AI cryptos on November 1st. That was actually talking about render at $2.30. I mean, if you look at the render price now, what is it? $11. So that's been an extremely good trade. And I think at some point it was at $14, $15. You can see I was talking about Singularity Net at 22 cents, and it's $1.22 right now. And that's, not me to brag and say I'm so amazing. That's just saying, look, if you have conviction in a narrative and you're willing to stick it out, you're likely going to actually be able to capitalize on the growth and benefit from that narrative, rather than chopping and hopping in and out of trends. As I said, even something like AI, it has these pumps and then it goes quiet, and pumps and goes quiet. If you constantly rotated out of the sector every time it went quiet, then you wouldn't benefit from the pumps. And I saw this amazing tweet this morning, which exemplifies this quite well. It shows that if you were to make 100x on Axie Infinity last cycle, you would have had to put up with a 52% drawdown, a 48%, a 49%, a 70% drawdown, 51%, 28%, 48%, and another 28% drawdown just to get that 100x. From $1 to $142. Now, this happened in waves. Obviously, the gaming run didn't happen all at once. It had a pump, then a drawdown, then it had a pump, then drawdown, etc. And it kind of chopped like this up to its final high. And if you want to kind of imagine this as the AI sector over time, it'll look similar. You'll get these pumps, then you'll get these big drawdowns where everyone says it's over, I made a mistake. But the ones that capitalize get the next leg up, and so on and so forth. And this is why most of you and most people in the market won't ever catch 100x and won't ever catch a 50x. It's because you get shaken out on these drawdowns and you don't stay in the market long enough to experience the major upside over time. So that's why I referenced this AI show I made in November. We were positioning quite early, 6 months ahead of the real boom in the trend, which happened recently. But if we used every single lull and every single drawdown that happened between then and now, then, I wouldn't be positioned in this narrative for the rest of the upside. But I do believe there's still upside to come. And I do believe that AI could potentially push to be $1 trillion sector. It's currently a $23 billion sector. I think it has a lot of growth to come, and I'll explain why. So AI is an especially reflexive crypto sector. Now, what do I mean? It means as price increases, as more money is invested in the AI sector, it generates more hype and more news, which feeds back into the fire and actually improves the fundamentals of the sector as a whole. So it's a very unique narrative in crypto because it has this constant news flow which keeps people talking about it that pretty much no other sector has. Let's just look at the current roadmap for AI over the last 12 months. We had ChatGPT be introduced, and then we saw AI go on this huge pump. I'll use Render as the proxy as one of the biggest coins in this sector. You see this first leg up here from 60 cents all the way to $2.50. Then recently you saw Sam Altman seeking trillions of dollars to reshape the business business of chips and AI. There was a lot of AI hype when this first happened in January. Then we saw OpenAI revealing their Sora video network. This got more people talking about AI, and as more people talked about it, the price started pumping even further. Then we had this pullback followed by the Nvidia conference, which was obviously resulting in this final leg to the upside because there was a lot of pre-conference hype. Then the conference happened and we saw a sell-off, and now we're starting to move to the upside again. And I actually did say in my pre-conference video, which I did 2 weeks before the conference, by the way, that it could be a buy the rumor, sell the news situation where you want to take profits and lock them into the conference, and that's exactly what ended up happening. So that's another tip for you in the market. Buy the rumor, sell the news with these trends typically does end up being the case. So selling around a major event is never a bad idea, at least taking some off the table, then reinvesting in the next big dip. I don't expect most of you to be able to time these rotations. It's more about just managing your risk, about market exposure. For the average person, I think chopping in and out of the market is actually, more dangerous than it is just buying and holding. Generally speaking, if you think AI is going to be a transformative sector, generally speaking, the best approach will be build a nice basket, a nice portfolio of quality assets, adjust those assets over time, take some profits on major pumps, reinvest on some major dips, and generally build your exposure over time until, eventually you can start funneling greater profits out as we get into full bull euphoria stage of the pump. And it's not just the news flow that I think AI benefits from. It's also the fact that you have some of the most aggressive funding in the real world going into the sector. Nvidia earnings are super strong, and this comes off the back of what is really insane global demand for compute power. We have a GPU shortage in the world currently, and Nvidia, although they technically don't have a monopoly, they definitely have the strongest foothold in the market. And because of the wait lists and demands for their chips, it is causing what I would consider to be a big bubble in an area where a lot of people are investing capital into. And look, that's why I'm so bullish on Deepin as a vertical. Although technically they aren't, AI proxies directly, it is a niche that benefits from this chip shortage via using decentralized technology to enable people to get access to compute. And this includes, big corporations, whether it be telcos, gaming studios, etc. from the real world. And this is something, Render and Akash and some of the upcoming ones like Aethea, who recently had their node sale, actually do. That's something I'll probably do another video on later. I don't want to make this a full deep in video, but clearly that is a sector I'm bullish on as a way to get some exposure to AI. GCR has a great tweet on altcoin cycles and narratives in general before we get on with, some of my individual picks, and I'll kind of outline the sector for you. He says, general trading principles as we watch meme tokens pump. Within alt cycles, you should crank up risk when the trend first reverses and begin to gradually protect capital as time passes. People lose because they do the exact opposite. They're slow early and increasingly greedy with time. And I would agree. As this bubble gets bigger and as more people get interested in AI and as, prices increase across equities, across crypto as a liquid proxy to get exposure to AI, people are going to become more greedy. And I don't want that to be you. I don't want, in the frenzy of the bubble, you to be aping into AI coins and going crazy. Look, I don't think we're super early. Like, we were definitely earlier when I was making those videos back in November, but we still are early enough compared to what I think is going, to come in the AI sector in general. So generally speaking, as things, progress, you should be taking on less risk. And as things are in their earlier stages, you should be taking on slightly more risk. Of course, using the strategies that I teach on this channel to build exposure without being crazy and buying into price pumps and, manipulated price action. So now that we've kind of talked about that, you have my view on the sector. You guys know I'm pretty bullish. You know the drivers behind how I've built my thesis. Let's now discuss some of the tokens. I'll just give you my overview. I'll go through the list here and give you my opinion on some of the most popular altcoins, if I like them. I'm actually going to do a tier list on the weekend, which ranks them with some more data, but let's go off the top here and I'll give you my opinions and also some picks that I'm currently looking at and bullish on. So Render and BitTensor, look, I think these are great protocols. However, there is an argument to be made that if you're really looking for serious gains in the sector, that capitalization around $4 billion in market cap maybe isn't the most optimal, depending on how much capital you have. Now, if you have, a six-figure position in BitTensor Render, okay, and you want to make $1 million, possible that you'll get a 10x out of this. But if you're looking for a 20, 30, 50, 100x, I mean, it's safe to say you probably won't get it in Render or BitTensor, even though I like them. And I do hold Render. I just think maybe going down the risk curve, at least for me, is, for a degen at heart, the strategy that I prefer to go down. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is not financial advice. It's just my opinion, my experience, my personal take on the market. Scrolling down the list, the graph I don't think is a great proxy. You can actually see if something's a good proxy by how price responsive it is to a narrative. What I've noticed is that Render's extremely price responsive to AI. Fetch and Agix are extremely price responsive. EOS, Ocean, WorldCoin are extremely price responsive. What I mean by this is when AI catches a bid due to some hype or some news or some announcement, what tokens actually pump with AI? Because if you're just looking at CoinGecko and you're investing in, let's say, the graph, AI is pumping, but you're capitalized in the graph and you're wondering why isn't it moving? Well, maybe it's not as responsive. So if you're trying to get an effective proxy, you've got to look at what are the tokens that actually run when the narrative takes off. There's no use, being in a meme coin that calls himself a meme coin but doesn't actually pump when meme coins are pumping. Doge was kind of similar to that recently, right? Where it kind of wasn't running as hard as the other ones because it wasn't the most effective proxy, to capitalize on this run. Pepe was, WIF was, etc. So yeah, looking at the AI sector, I think FET, I really do like, and let's just talk in terms of proxies, what actually moves strongly when AI moves. FET, definitely one of them. Agix, definitely one of them from my experience. EOS, definitely one of them. Ocean, definitely one of them. Golem, it doesn't follow the market as closely, but it is one that I have seen respond quite well. RSS3 recently been responding really well. A lot of these are up 15, 20%. This is up 28% this week, and today it did have a massive move. 0xO, PAL, I'm not in these ones, but these are ones that, other big creators are talking about, and clearly these do move with the market. So let's keep scrolling down here. Anything else? There are some other ones like your BitTensor bets, your AITs and these protocols that are built on top. You've got GLQ. Some of these protocols down the list here are interesting, but it gets riskier, right? As you go down the risk curve to find these AI gems, the amount of risk you take on is greater. So obviously you won't be positioning yourselves as heavily in these. It's, at least for me, the risk reward is pretty good around this $100 million region and above. If you don't have much capital, you might have to go down the risk curve, but you're obviously taking a lot more risk when you do that. The other thing you have to be cognizant of is, look, are you trading or are you investing? If you're trading, then it doesn't really matter what you buy. If you're just bullish on AI, you can kind of buy any token that's responsive to AI, right? FET and Agix are great examples, and that's why I've been bullish on them. But a bit longer term, you might want to look at, okay, who are the real beneficiaries from AI? And as I mentioned before, I think that's Deepin. I think that's AI infrastructure. Even bets that don't necessarily cover AI in isolation, but Deepin that has exposure to, the upside of gaming and other niches that I'm bullish on. So that's why I'm investing heavily in Deepin. Render's in that category. Akash is in that category. An upcoming one that I'm an early investor in is Aethea. Game recently launched today. That's a Deepin project that I was also an investor in. So there are a few projects which, I've been taking positions in this sector. It's not just the current ones, there's also some great upcoming ones, some of which I'm going to talk about on the weekend in the tier list show. In terms of liquid stuff, RSS3 is showing some amazing price action. It's funny, I talked about RSS3 when it was in this channel, just starting to break out at 24 cents. You can see here in the video, I talked about it on the breakout at 25 cents. Now it's almost up, a 2.5, 3x at 63 cents. I think it pumped to 65. So this is a super strong performer. Any major dips I get on this, I'll also look to top up my position. This has been something I've been doing. When we've had these major drawdowns, I've been accumulating here and here. And then when we have these major pumps in price, that's when you can take some profits on the table just to keep, recycling and making sure you're managing risk at all times. So RSS3 has been amazing. Congrats to everyone that is in this. It's been a very, very good trade. Their mainnet just launched. I think there's still more upside there. But of course, I don't, just as a general rule, and maybe this is going to cost me money at times, I don't generally like buying into massive pumps. When something's up 20% in a day, it goes on my buy list for the next major dip. So I'm sorry to those that want to ape something right now. I'm going to tell you something. The best strategy is to save a buy list on TradingView and buy into that list when we get these drawdowns. Trust me, we get these drawdowns. Even on RSS3 as an example, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drawdowns since February 27th, less than a month ago. Even on EOS, right? Another token that I'm quite bullish on in the sector. If you look at the last 3 months, we had this major drawdown. We had a major drawdown. We had another big sell-off. And the sell-offs took us down to, I think, actually lower than the 68 cents, took us down to 65 cents. The first one took us down to 23 cents. It's sitting at, over $1 now. This is another one that I spoke about on the show. I think I have the timestamp here at 19 cents. And it's now sitting at over $1. So this has been a really nice trade, and one that, once again, on major dips, you can look to scoop up some AI coins. So those are some that I'm most interested in. I also find Golem interesting. I think they've got some big updates coming out soon. I don't have a massive position in that right now, but it's one that I am monitoring. If I start to see some interesting price action there, this is one that I'm looking for as an opportunity. With some of these AI coins, I'll chop in and out of a little bit. With some, I have some more longer term positions. Like I view my Render bag, my Agix bag, my AOS bag as longer term positions, RSS3. I'm planning on holding some mid to long term. So I've got my short-term play around stuff that I use to trade the AI hype, but I'm more interested in the development of this sector long-term, and if it can become a $1 trillion sector, how can I maximize my exposure? And that is pretty much having my finger on the pulse, looking for AI gems, keeping up to date with the sector and becoming an expert in the sector. And I'm pretty sure you won't watch another YouTuber that has in the next few months the same knowledge and expertise in the AI crypto sector that I do, because literally I am spending hours on the phone to projects every single day researching this. So like seriously, compared to other YouTubers that are just like bringing these random videos, like I'm literally talking to AI startups, meeting them in Web 2, in Web 3. I talked to one yesterday that I think could do well, because I'm looking to capitalize myself in these not only current projects, but early stage ones too. And when there are opportunities for me to, help my community out to get access, I'll also do that. But that's a vertical I'm super interested in, because I think AI is really going to be a strong performer. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it today. I want to give you a quick update on my group. I did announce it in my last 2 shows. The waitlist is now unfortunately full. So if you didn't get in, unfortunately, the cap is closed. I did 2 videos where I, stated that I would cap it at 1,000 people. I'm going to stay true to my word. I am going to cap it. Everyone that did sign up, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not letting in everyone at once, because I want to make sure it's managed in a way that's not too crazy and doesn't cause havoc. So I'll be letting in, I think, 50 every hour for the best part of 24 hours. Obviously not when I'm asleep, but when I'm awake. So if you're watching and you're not in, don't worry. You'll get an email at some point in the next 24 hours after this video. If you don't get an email, I would say by latest Thursday, then feel free to reach out on the help section of WAP, who are the infrastructure providers powering this endeavor, and they will be able to sort you out with access. So I'm super excited, really, really, really excited for that community. There will be an opportunity for those who missed it to get in the future. I'm not going to keep it at 1,000 people forever, but for at least the next few weeks, at least for the near future, I'm probably going to keep it as an exclusive community. I don't know exactly when I am going to raise the cap, but don't worry, I'll still be here every day with the alpha on these shows. If you didn't make that first waitlist, and in the future, there'll probably be an opportunity for you to get in. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button for daily crypto alpha. And yeah, got some amazing content planned for you. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Peace out.